Hello and welcome back to War Thunder and welcome aboard the BV238. I finally throw another portion of my precious money at Gaijin and purchased it for around just under 2000 golden eagles. And I will come at the end of the video to the verdict if this plane is worth it or not. It is a rank 2 battle rating 3.3 German premium bomber, and in many respects this plane is a bit controversial, and it interfered a little bit with the meta of teams in War Thunder so far. And many people see this plane as some kind of low tier TU4 for the Germans. Is it that? Well, yes and no, and I will come to this in a moment. Now, first of all, this plane is not bad, but it's not spectacular from a pure handling perspective. It is the first six-engine bomber in the game that we have, and I hope for more such huge behemoths. Not at this battle rating, however. And I have to say it's surprisingly durable, and also to a certain degree, if you know how to handle it, surprisingly maneuverable. Now, I have to hasten to add that I am a very, very experienced bomber pilot. I spaded all tech trees with bombers, and I loved it. I was really good at it, and it was all in arcade back in the days. And a lot of the tips and tricks that I know myself, how to interfere with enemies, how to drop which bomb load at which target in which prioritization or order, that all came from arcade, and it's certainly the same in realistic if you adapt to it. Now, this is my long-winded say of that this plane is not a noob's favorite. It is not that easy to handle. It has restrictions, and you have to work around it, but on the other hand, you can work around them. And at first, it amused me highly that Gaijin announced in the dev blog that the bomb load of this plane was restricted for balancing reasons. I laughed at it when I heard it after, I don't know, nearly 20 battles in it. Not quite 20 battles, but over 15 battles, I'm sure. I have to say I understand why. And it's a conjunction of where this plane sits, what it can do, how it does it, and also the battle rating, and also regarding the average player. What sounds insulting on the first attempt is in fact the daily truth you face. This is not in a bad matter, but not everybody knows the full knowledge about combat at battle rating 3.3 where this plane sits, and therefore it kind of features a problem. Now, when I say it breaks the meta of the teams, I'm referring to that normally allied teams, especially Americans, love their bombers, especially their B-17s, B-29s, and the Russians their Tu-4s. However, I think this plane offered the first opportunity for an actual German bomber spam at low tiers. Did it happen? Yes and no. Sometimes I saw 3 BV-238s, but often I also was the first big bomber, sometimes accompanied by Focke-Wulf 200s. That's it. And what you saw me doing here was to actually destroy 2 mini bases and drop the rest on a carrier. And we will see the first problem right here. Not every bomb hit the carrier. Now, why is that? Oh, I was so bad at aiming. No. Actually, the bombs or the bomb base rather, are mounted under the wings, somewhere between the first and second engine on each side of the wing. And what you also can see is I was, safe from AAA hits up until the point where they zeroed in, and then all 6 engines suddenly had oil and water leaks. And this is the common theme. When this plane takes damage, it takes it on a widespread. You rarely lose just one engine. Although I have to say, the engines have quite a long durability after they have been hit mortally. And you have a few minutes to go back to base. But on the other hand, you lose power, and if one of your wings is damaged, you tend to list over. It's really challenging to keep it in the air. Now here on Norway, you have the option of landing in the water, but I'm really careful with water landings, as you know, I ripped my wings, or I was destroyed rather often with other planes, and I think the one plane that I can compare it back in the days, in the very early days of War Thunder, is the H6K4, because it also has all around a lot of defensive armament which provide actually the same problems. You have difficulties hitting something. Look at this sheer volume of fire. Yes, you have probably the most guns on any plane, and those are 13mm machine cannons, quadruple they are, and you have 3 quadruple turrets in the rear of the plane. But there is just 1 tail gunner and 2 are mounted in the wings. This reminds me a little bit as for the Russian PE-8, which just has one big 50 cal, and you can see it's quite difficult to hit something out of your convergence. But when you hit and you have the range, then it's game over. And look at this fire. Now, the next thing is I have to talk a little bit about those machine guns. First of all, against planes, they are not that effective. What kills players the most are the 2 20mm machine cannons in the top turret, and they are evil. Now, just to put this in perspective, the first German fighter that gets MG151-20s is the B109 F4, and it gets it at 3.7. This bomber has it at 3.3. Now, you might think this is not a big deal, but it's also twice the armament. The 13mm, however, work really well against soft ground units, as we will see later in the game. The next thing is they tend to overheat rather fast. Now, which belts do I use? Obviously, for the 20mm, the air belts with 2 mine shells and 1 incendiary shell. But for the 13mm, I rely on the stock belts, so to speak. Because they have 2 API shells and 1 tracer shell, and also 1 AIA shell, if I'm not mistaken. I don't trust the normal armor-piercing incendiary shells with tracers that you get on the second belt. And now we come to another part, the landing. Oh yes, you can land it on air, on air. You can land it here on the airfield, and this was one of the few battles where I was registered as dead on the airfield, but I still got a kill, a repair. I'm sorry, I'm really done today. Yeah. Now, the bomb load. Let's come back to this. The bomb load consists of 20 250 kilogram bombs, and for a mini base, or bomb target, so to speak, whatever you want to call it, you need 7. Now, normally you have to drop 1,500 kilograms of bombs on a mini base, but for 250 kilograms, a bit is missing, so you need 7. And 3 times 7 is 21, so you are 1 bomb missing for destroying all 3 of them. Now, this is a bit annoying, as you then, have to go back, land, rearm, repair, refuel, whatever, and then go for this 1 bomb target with 1 bomb. Now, this is where allies come in. As a single plane, this is a challenge for the enemy in the first place. We will come to this back in a moment. But in conjunction with numerous, you really get the feeling of TU4 and low tier or a bit higher tier H6K4. Now, the H6K4 is in that regard remarkable in comparison, because it also has a 20mm defensive gunner backed up by numerous machine guns, although it's nowhere near comparable. It's also a huge plane, and it's also a float plane, and it also can dictate the outcome of battles. At least the H6K4 could do it in arcade battles in the early days, and that was big, because also it had a lot of modifiers going for it in terms of rewards, not just for silver lines, but especially for yeah, uh, for research points. It was 150% in arcade back in the days. I put a talisman on it, and this plane was quite literally the plane which I researched the Japanese planes up until rank 4, I guess, when then I switched over to the G8 and 1, which also was a blast in arcade. But, you know, that's not the point of this video. As you could see, this plane is really not that bad at taking down enemies, but you need to really know how to aim defensive gunners. I was never very good at it. It was very easy mode on the TU4 because you had such a high spread and single hits were often enough. On this plane, you have to hit the enemy multiple times in the right location, with the 13 millimeters, despite them being quadruple turrets, because they have a big spread, and very often the enemy is way out of your conversion points, where all three rear-facing turrets converge. If they are in that convergence, wow, they have a bad time. Now at this point, I landed, repaired, and yeah, I was in the air again. Claimed my second kill, and you know what is going for it? What is going for the BV238 in terms of comparing it to the TU4? Is it like a low tier TU4? Yes, the size is comparable, the defensive firepower is comparable, and I also have over a 3-to-1 kill to death ratio in it. That tells you a lot that this plane indeed is problematic. Also, the gunners, like on the TU4, stay alive for a very long time. Then why not? Well, the bomb load is too small. As I mentioned, it was restricted due to balance reasons. Then there are no cannons facing downwards. You know, it's a float plane or a flying boat, whatever you want to call it, and you have problems defending yourself facing downwards. But the 13mm gunners have an amazing firing arc, even downwards. Not directly downwards, but good enough that fighters can't really take on advantage of being exactly below you. Then also the effective range of the 13mm is not that great. They work best at close range. However, I have a 600 meters convergence on this. Yeah, then what are the problems of this plane to focus it up? The wing-mounted gunners, as I mentioned, are difficult to aim. Also, they overheat relatively fast with continuous fire, even though this is a premium and gets all the upgrades for free basically. Then losing altitude is a challenge. As I mentioned, this is not a very noob friendly plane in my opinion. If you master this plane, especially with damage and you know the rudder authority and also the elevator authority when you can handle it, it's controllable, but just. On the other hand, it's not that uncontrollable as I expected it to be, just you know looking at the size. Then landing on an airfield, as you just saw, is relatively easy, even at 300 kilometers an hour. Yes, the fuselage gets damaged, but you don't get destroyed unless you hit something with your wings, which is challenging because this is the biggest plane currently in War Thunder, and I don't expect to see any other plane challenging that size anytime soon. And yeah, the wing damage is critical. If it is, you know, symmetrical damage, it doesn't matter. This plane has amazing lift when you have the bombs gone and the engines are not damaged. More on this in a moment. Then, yeah, you know, when I come to the final verdict of if this plane is worth it, you see it right now, you know, the day after I purchased it. I expect this plane to either get an increase in battle rating or getting nerfed in some other way. I don't expect this to stay at where it is at the moment with the current performance for long, as we will see a lot of complaints from enemy players which are already there. Now, The next thing is, I have to say that this plane, or let's say three of those planes, have the possibility of taking out the enemy base in one run. Everybody takes one of the bombing points, and then they go together to the airfield and drop their remaining payload. I think that's enough to take on the airfield. However, also with the combined firepower, enemies don't dare to go near you. And that brings me to the next point. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, let me just have a look at the tech trees. The Americans are basically the nation that can deal with this plane very easily. We have here a lot of planes with 50 cals that can spread fire. A lot of planes armed with rockets. We have the A-20G, which can mount some rockets, and it has basically the opportunity to go to altitude in time. Then we also have the F6, F3, also capable of arming itself with rockets and hunting it down, especially the tiny Tims. When you get them on target, you have no chance as the BV-238. Then also, what about the P-39s? The N0 is at 3.0 battle rating and the Q5 is at 3.3. And if I'm not mistaken, the P-63s, of which we have four, are also of which we have three in the American tech tree. The A5 is at 3.7, the A10 is at 4.0, and the C5 is also at 4.0. Those planes are equipped with 37mm cannons and 50 cals. So you think this environment is already hostile enough. And with the Yak-9T at 4.3, when you get up-tiered against the Russians, you have the most lethal plane in the game you can think of. And, a lot of Russian aircraft can mount rockets, and they can go up. Also, they have access to some of the premium P-39s and P-63s as well. I'm currently counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 American Land-Lease planes as premium. Yes, some of them were just available in events, but you know where I'm going. And even the British have possible planes that can take on this plane. The Beaufighter, why do I not see those players, or the Mark 6C or the Mark 10? I think that even can mount some rockets, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you see them, but they never challenge this plane. And when they challenge it, they're doing it wrong. They don't go into head-ons. They don't go, in boom and zoom attacks on this plane. Although boom and zoom attacks at 3.3, that's the next point. Can you really expect any players, knowing everything about tactics at 3.3 when this is a new player and he sees this plane and, he gets shot down 10 times in a row, not downing one of those behemoths? Will he try again? That's the battle rating problem of this plane. Let me know in the comment section what you think about it. And then let's come back to the engine as promised. Now, as you could see in the first, after the first bombing run on the mini bases, that I was hit by a AAA once, and all 6 engines got damaged. And while they were not, damaged, it was the coolant, the water coolant and the oil coolant that had leaks. And like 5 minutes later, at least the engines would be dead, all 6 of them. What can I also tell you about this plane? Well, it's really durable. It gets set on fire not very often, despite all the fuel tanks being in the wings, and also the wings are very durable. I saw numerous planes trying to ram me to death because they were so desperate, and I was the last player alive. And there we can see the 13mm, how they work against those landing crafts. Now, as a German pilot, you might notice how difficult sometimes it is to take them down with cannon fire. But just a single volley or a single burst from this 13mm. Granted, they are quadruple, but they go down like nothing. And I did this to whittle down the points of the enemy. I wanted to win. At this point, I was the last player alive, and I think there was just one P-38 left from the enemy, and it was running. And you know, yeah, as good as this plane might be, hunting a P-38, no way. He has to come to me. And again, we can see how good this plane or its armament is against, yeah, those landing crafts. If I could hit them. And there he is, the P-38. He finally came out. I don't know if he was sick and tired of, you know, flying around and doing nothing, or if he, or that he realized that he was about to lose the game because he did nothing. I don't know, but he missed the chance to climb and bring himself into a very good position. At the moment, he's on my tail, and I will not turn around. What you just see is me basically doing nothing. Now I'm between a rock and a hard place. I'm between this guy, who will catch up, and the destroyers. Gladly, the destroyer AAA is not that dangerous, or are they light cruisers? I don't know. But here you can see the pure volume of fire. It's intimidating, and I have to say it's also quite effective, especially when you are on level ground and the 20mm is also firing together. And there you can see that was definitely a 20mm hit. The biggest problem that I have with these planes are actually two. First of all, to aim the defensive fire turrets or the defensive gunners. Not just because of the convergence, but also if they are inside my convergence, it's pretty difficult. Also, this plane is relatively repetitive in its playstyle. You might say, yeah, that's a bomber, yeah. But it's the lack of speed, and that is probably the biggest difference between this plane and the Tu-4. One thing that I have to say, in all the battles that I played, I never hit in space. And there we can see the results. And for 3 aircraft kills and 13 ground units, I got nearly 150,000 silver lines and 7,000 research points flat out. Now I'm currently not researching anything, so the bonus didn't get applied, but 150,000 silver lines, that's quite a bit. Without any booster, but with a premium account. And yeah, this battle was played late at night, so yeah. I had numerous battles with 4 kills, but they were not as good as in showcasing the plane. And this battle took a while, so I'm sorry. Now there is one final thing to note. How is the result overall? And those are the last battles. And 150 in the first, and 136 in this one. Another 130,000, nearly 90,000, nearly 150,000, nearly 140,000, just 67,000 or 66,000, again 150,000, just 43,000, it depends if you win or lose, 40,000, 40,000, 160,000, and that was the very first battle that I played in. So, this is the BV238. Is it worth it? If you like big bombers, if you don't mind spending a bit of gold, if you want something for lower tiers, if you want to do something troll squad or something, yes. I don't know how long this plane will stay here, if it will stay at all there. I don't think that it will get taken out, or if enemy players will adapt to the challenge, if they then see it as a possibility of making easy kills, if they find out how to take it on, with rockets and head-ons. I don't know how this plane will perform in the future, and also if we get the promised 500 kilogram bombs. If we get 10 of those, we actually have the chance of taking on all 3 mini bases and have 1 bomb remaining, which makes it much easier, much more comfortable to fly this plane, in my opinion. Now, precision bombing, dive bombing, and such things are obviously not the first attempt you should do with this plane. On the other hand, I like it, and I will fly it out from time to time. So that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the bomber situation at lower tiers, especially your experience with the BV238. I just showcased you my perspective from flying it. Let me know what you think about it when facing it, because I have no experience in this respect. So, yeah, like this video if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we will see each other in the skies.